Mangosteen, the queen of fruits. Discover the tropical wonders. Discover the secrets of the purple gem that brings health and happiness. The mangosteen tree grows in tropical places like Southeast Asia and India. It has a sweet and tangy fruit with juicy, fibrous flesh and a reddish-purple rind. The edible part surrounds the seeds, which are similar in size and shape to almonds. There are also other lesser-known fruits in the Garcinia genus like the button mangosteen and the charichuelo. Mangosteen grows in warm places and can reach the heights from 6 to 25 meters. This tree needs consistent warmth to thrive, and cold temperatures can harm it. Skilled gardeners have even managed to grow these trees in extreme South Florida. The mangosteen tree bears fruit, and when the fruit is young, it's a pale green or almost white color. As the fruit gets bigger, its color changes to a darker green, and when it's ready to eat, the outside becomes 6-8 cm in diameter and softens. Inside, the fruit has special chemicals that keep it safe from bugs and other threats while it grows. Once the mangosteen stops growing, its color changes from green to red and finally to dark purple over 10 days, showing that it's ready to eat. After picking, the outer part of the fruit hardens, but this depends on how it's handled and where it's stored. If the air is humid, the outer part may take a week to harden, even though the inside is still good to eat. However, if the fruit isn't kept cool and dry, the inside might spoil, even if the outside seems fine. To know if a mangosteen is fresh, it's better to feel the outer part. If it's soft like when it's picked from the tree, the fruit is usually good. The inside of the mangosteen, called the endocarp, is white and has the same shape and size as a small tangerine. The number of parts inside matches the number of points on the outside, and more parts mean fewer seeds. There are usually 4-8 segments inside, and the bigger ones have seeds that are not tasty unless they're roasted. Once a mangosteen is picked, it won't ripen more, so it's best to eat it soon. People often say the fruit is a subtle delicacy because it has a mild smell, much less strong than other fragrant fruits. The main smells in the mangosteen are caramel, grass, and butter notes, which make it unique. Mangosteen is a special plant that comes from Southeast Asia and has been loved for a very long time because of its juicy and tasty fruit. People in places like Malaysia, Borneo, Sumatra, and the Philippines have been growing mangosteen since ancient times. In a Chinese record from the 15th century, mangosteen was described as a plant with sweet and sour white flesh. A famous scientist named Linnaeus talked about mangosteen in a book in 1753, and it was brought to England in 1855. Although it doesn't grow well outside of warm places, people in the West Indies and parts of America also started growing mangosteen. In Southeast Asia, mangosteen is known as the queen of fruit and is often talked about with durian, the king of fruit. There's even a cool story about Queen Victoria wanting mangosteen so much that she offered a reward for it. Some people really love mangosteen, like a journalist who said it's more delicious than a hot fudge sundae. Since 2006, you can find mangosteen in American stores and fancy restaurants, especially the ones grown in Puerto Rico. People even enjoy them as a special dessert. Mangosteen is a special plant that comes from Southeast Asia. People there have been growing it for a very long time because its fruit is juicy, delicate, and has a slightly sweet and sour taste. In a record from China in the 15th century, mangosteen was described as a plant with yummy white flesh. A famous scientist named Linnaeus talked about mangosteen in a book in 1753, and it was brought to England in 1855. People in the West Indies and parts of America also started growing mangosteen, even though it doesn't grow well outside warm places. In Southeast Asia, mangosteen is known as the queen of fruit and is often talked about with durian, the king of fruit. Some people even tell a cool story about Queen Victoria wanting mangosteen so much that she offered a reward for it. Some people really love mangosteen, like a journalist who said it's more delicious than a hot fudge sundae. Since 2006, you can find mangosteen in American stores and fancy restaurants, especially the ones grown in Puerto Rico. People even enjoy them as a special dessert. Mangosteen plants usually grow from seedlings because it's hard to grow them from other parts of the plant. The seeds are special and grow into plants that are exactly like the parent plant. To make sure the seeds can grow, they need to be soaked in water for about 14 to 21 days. When the plants are about 10-12 inches tall, they are moved to the field where they are spaced apart. After planting, the field is covered with mulch to stop weeds. This is done in the rainy season to make sure the young plants don't get hurt by a lack of water. Young plants need shade, so sometimes other plants like bananas or coconuts are grown with them. This not only provides shade but also helps control weeds. The best temperature for mangosteen plants to grow is between 25-35 C 77-95 F, and they like a lot of humidity. They don't do well in very hot or very cold temperatures. The soil they like is deep and well drained, and they prefer places with a lot of moisture like near rivers. Mangosteen trees need rain throughout the year, but they also need a dry season of about 3-5 weeks. The trees are careful about water and fertilizer. Too much or too little can affect them. The fruits are ready to be picked after about 5-6 months, and they should be a purple color when they're harvested. Breeding mangosteen plants is important for better fruits, but it can be challenging. People work on choosing the best part of the plant to grow and using a method called grafting. The seeds needed for breeding are kept in special collections because keeping them dry or cold doesn't work well. Mangosteen breeding takes a long time because it needs many years before the trees start giving fruits. Scientists want to make mangosteen trees that can handle dry weather, have a good shape, and produce lots of tasty fruits. Mangosteen trees can start giving fruits in about 6 years, but it might take more than 12 years depending on the weather and how they are grown. The number of fruits a tree gives can change as it gets older, with some trees still giving fruits even when they are 100 years old. Most of the mangosteen fruits come from Southeast Asia, especially in places like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Some other places like Colombia and Puerto Rico also grow mangosteen successfully. Mangosteen trees can get sick from common diseases and bugs just like other tropical trees. The diseases can affect the leaves, fruits, stems, and the soil around the tree. One disease, called Pestalotiopsis leaf blight, harms young leaves and makes the fruits rot. Another disease, thread blight, damages leaves and branches, and it spreads through wind and raindrops. Diplodia fruit rot is a problem after picking mangosteen in Thailand, and it enters the tree through wounds. Brown root disease is caused by a fungus living on the roots, and it spreads through contact with infected wood. Some bugs like the leaf eater, leaf miner, and fruit borer can also harm mangosteen leaves and fruits. To protect the trees, people use different methods like spacing the trees apart, using chemicals, and even using bugs that eat the bad bugs. The inside part of the mangosteen fruit, called the endocarp, is edible and has a mild flavor. Even though it doesn't have a lot of nutrients, it can still be eaten. In the United States, fresh mangosteens were not allowed to be brought in until 2007 because of rules to protect against bugs. Now you can find fresh mangosteens in some markets, especially in places like Chinatowns. People use mangosteens in different ways, like eating them as a dessert or making jams. When the fruit is ripe, you can open it by scoring the shell with a knife and gently prying it open. Another way is to squeeze the bottom of the shell until it breaks, and then you can eat the fruit while it's still attached to the stem. Sometimes the juice from the purple part of the fruit can stain skin or fabric when peeling ripe fruits. Mangosteen has been used in traditional medicine in Southeast Asia for a long time, but there isn't strong proof that it helps with skin infections or other health issues. In some places, dried mangosteen fruits are sent to Singapore to be used in medicine for things like dysentery and skin problems. People in Indonesia use the peel of the mangosteen to make natural dyes for textiles. In different parts of the world, mangosteen twigs have been used as chew sticks, and the wood has been used to make spears and furniture. The peel of the mangosteen has special chemicals called xanthanoids, and the fruit has compounds like xanthones, garcinia, and mangosteen. Mangosteens are only available for a short time during the year, and they are grown by small farmers and sold at roadside fruit stalls. The price of mangosteen can change a lot because it's not always available, and there isn't a standard way to check if the fruit is good. Even though mangosteen is not very common in Western markets, it's becoming more popular, and it's often sold at a high price.